Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding this watch. Fascinating piece today. We have a Rolex Certified Pre-Owned Oyster Perpetual Submariner Date. This is the 116613LB-0005, and it's the model as it was made from its debut in 2009 until the dial returned to a metallic sunburst in 2013. So a lot of folks liked the metallic dial look, but I actually prefer the lacquer because I think there's a better match between the gloss of the bezel insert and the gloss of the dial, and I think that is just a handsome symmetry. So the watch is, of course, a super case sub, 6 digits. The 6-digit super case debuted as a solid gold watch in 2008. The two-tone came the next year. So we have yellow gold and Rolex 904L steel here. 40 millimeters in diameter, measures the same as the 5-digit model, though in practice it wears a little bit larger. It's not thick though. It is 12.8 millimeters thick from lug to lug, 48 millimeters, solid end link to solid end link, 50.9 millimeters across the wrist, and then there's a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. You may be interested to know that this certified pre-owned Rolex Submariner Date was sold originally in 2010. So we'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and we will get a sense of how it wears. It's comfortable. It's definitely bigger than the 5-digit, but I've often said that if you could wear the 5-digit, you could wear the 6-digit. On the wrist, and yes, I'm aware there was a 6-digit sub back in the 80s. We're not going to talk about the 168000, not today. As far as we're concerned, this is the first generation of large-scale 6-digit Rolex Submariner, and I would recommend it for a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference. You can see down the barrel, there's a little bit of clearance between the end of the lug and the end of my wrist on each side, so you could wear this on a slightly smaller wrist. And then you can see it'll easily fit under a cuff. Rolex's sub has always been quite slim for a ISO compliant dive watch, especially an automatic winder, rotating bezel, 300 meters, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Taking a closer look, you can see that the bracelet is of the Oyster variety, and that we have center links in high polished yellow gold. We have flanking links in 904L steel. Outer faces are polished, shoulders are satinated. You can see removable links are fixed in place using screws, and that on both sides. We've got an intermediate size link in there for fine-tuning the fit. And this is a sub, so we have glide lock, not just easy link. Glide lock is 20 millimeters of tool-free adjustable length. Now this can be used to fine-tune the fit, or you can pull it out all the way and use it as extension over a dive suit. So you have that functionality. Straight through polish. This watch represents the culmination of decades of evolution of Rolex bracelets. By this point, we've got solid end link, solid center links, and thick gauge clasps that include a double locking factor. The first is this spring-loaded lift lock. There's a beak and then there's a hook, and you can see these two things join together. And so this is actually a locked clasp. This is a double locked clasp. Notice how it's a little kerf right there, so you can dig your nail in to pop this open. Rolex thinks of everything. 904L steel, what is it? Well, we mentioned it a moment ago. Rolex now calls it Oyster steel. It is a high nickel content steel, and so it's particularly resistant to corrosion in the presence of certain industrial acids and more pertinent to daily life, sweat and sea salt. So it will not corrode if those things get on the case and are not summarily washed off, whereas conventional 316 steel can actually rust even though it's stainless in the presence of those salts. So screw down crown, 300 meter water resistance. The crown is a trip lock, and you can see how that works right there. And then we've got a case that's polished, lugs that are kind of squared off and satinated, and a case back that is solid. People ask, what does the back look like? Well, with most Rolex watches, it looks like this. It is an Oyster case back. Bezel, 120 click, super precise, but also refined. It's not as chunky as something like a Doxa sub or a panorized submersible, but what it does have is a well-defined detent and an alchemical combination of two things that feel like they should be mutually exclusive: a silky glide and a sharp click. Now it's 120 clicks, which means you can place it quite precisely against the minute hand. Now you've got a 0 to 60 minute count up timer. And I've long preferred a dive bezel to a chronograph because it's easier to read. It gives you a clear 0 to 60 timing, whereas most chronographs are just a 30-minute counter. And then you don't have the downstream maintenance costs that come with a chronograph. Do a quick loom shot here, and you can see that at the point this watch was made, we do have Rolex's Chromalite, Rolex's Chromalite Blue. We also have Parachrom inside the case, but we'll talk about that in a moment. We have a bezel that's made of yellow gold, and then we have a cerachrom ceramic insert on the bezel. Now, it is ceramic, highly scratch resistant, and a really nice match for the dial. This is incredibly beautiful, and this is why I prefer the lacquer dial variants of this Bluesy. Now you can also see attention to detail here. Rolex putting a little sapphire cap on top of the bezel pearl so it cannot get scratched or gouged. Then we have PVD gold deposits inside the bezel, and those are genuine gold PVD deposits, so they won't tarnish, they won't oxidize, they won't fade or change color. Hands and indices on the dial are gold for the same reason. And then we've got the Cyclops Eye magnifier. The watch features 2 setting modes. One is the hacking seconds mode, where you stop the watch and you can set it precisely against a known accurate reference time. You can see how crisply the date changes on these caliber 3135s. Now there's also a quick set that allows you to set the date. You can see the lovely serif intensive font Rolex uses here. Inside the case, caliber 3135, automatic winding, 48-hour power reserve, 31 joules, 4 hertz, hacking, quick set, COSC chronometer certification on the movement, and then the movement features a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance for shock resistance. The free sprung balance also making for very easy, precise setting using the variable inertia micro Stella screws. The watch has an overcoil hairspring Breguet profile shaped by hand, so it is isochronous, that is a consistent timekeeper in any physical position. And then that hairspring, we mistakenly alluded to it earlier, it is Parachrom blue. It is a niobium zirconium alloy that is highly anti-magnetic, that has been oxidized blue. And so this watch is shock resistant, water resistant, and resistant to magnetism. It's a full set. A very durable watch and a handsome one, somewhere between a dress watch and a sports watch, able to fill in for both. Reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details. Rolex Certified Pre-Owned watches are backed and authenticated by Rolex. Should any reconditioning be necessary, it will be to a Rolex Certified standard, and any parts invested Rolex Factory Original. Should the initial retail box, paper, and accessory set still accompany the watch, it will be included with the sale. But no matter what, a Certified Pre-Owned box and paper set starts with an outer box, a leatherette travel pouch with suede lining, a warranty card that embodies the 2-year globally valid Rolex-backed warranty. Note, this is not a retail warranty, but backed by Rolex and actionable at any of its authorized points of sales and service. A leatherette wallet includes the warranty terms and conditions manual. A holographic hang tag marks this as a certified pre-owned Rolex watch, and a manual details Rolex's values as a company. The certified pre-owned program, care, feeding, service, and use of your Rolex, locations of points of sales and service, and details of Rolex.com. Rolex certified pre-owned watches are backed only by Rolex.